Hey, what's going on, tribe members? Hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. You know what I'm saying? Definitely a pleasure having you guys in. But most importantly, to be part of the Patreon, because you already know, man, like we're building this community. You hear me? So, with that being said, let's dive right into it, guys. Now, in the last video, I talked about embracing the ego. And a quick synopsis of that. And today we're going to be talking about how to, like the next step in, because technically embracing the ego has different layers. But the first layer that I wanted you to understand was by embracing the ego, what you're doing is you're changing your perspective. And I broke it down to you in a sense where, you would have to understand that your ego is not your enemy. And by understanding that, what this is doing to you is changing your perspective. It's making you more at ease for you to understand there's no fucking fight. It's just you and yourself. How do you want it? All right, so let's just say the ego is your enemy. What are you gonna do then? What, you're gonna have a fight club? Then what happened? Because the ego's still gonna be there. Do you see what I'm saying? So to overcoming the ego is you embracing it. That's what they're not telling you. If you're constantly fighting something, you're not overcoming it. You're resisting it. That's what fight is. But when you embody something, you overcome it, meaning you come together with it. You come in terms with it. So you gotta, like your ego cannot be your fucking enemy. Even if you wanted it to. You know what I'm saying? Even if you wanted it to, it wouldn't make sense. So on this layer, I wanted you to embrace your ego, but most importantly, you would have to understand certain things. You got to be aware of what's happening. Just like the Tibetan monks tells you, in order for you to untie a knot, you got to understand how it was tied in the first place. And that's for everything else. That's just the way they said it. But to solve a problem, you got to know what the problem is. How do you solve a problem? How do you bring a solution to a problem that you don't know what the problem is? So that's just their ways of saying it, which I kind of like. But it's not a fancy shit that they're talking about. There's nothing fancy about it. Me being a fancy ass motherfucker, like I like that shit. But what they're really telling you is the day-to-day activities. Do you see what I'm saying? You cannot, like, in other words, even with your car, whatever kind of problem that you got. Do you know what I'm saying? It starts with acknowledgement. So meaning you got to start from the beginning. But as you start into the beginning, you start shedding light into what's taking place. But anyway, I don't want to, sidetrack, because I could talk about so many different shit just by talking about this shit alone. But embracing the ego, now you have to change your perspective, because that's what I'm pretty much giving you a synopsis before I get into the next step, which is going to be you educating yourself, truly. Because your ego goes, you see, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's back it up a little bit. But I just want you to know, I'm not going to keep talking about this, but it's relevant as I'm going to be stepping into, as I'm stepping into the next step. All right. So let me get mine, niggas, because I'm gonna work you guys out today. I'm gonna work you out, baby. I'm gonna work you out. I'm gonna beat you up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just allowing you to see different aspects of things, challenging yourself. Do you see what I'm saying? But anyway, so by understanding the ego is not your enemy, that's key. Right? Because now it's changing, what you're really doing is changing your perspective about things. Do you see what I'm saying? But most importantly, too, I wanted to say this, and this is crazy. And part of understanding the ego, think about it this way. Your heart is meant to be open. We are meant to love each other. Like, that's what we are meant to do, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we choose something else. Like, can you imagine, like, if you're going to be on earth, right? Why would you not deserve, like, a quality life? Why would you not deserve somebody you fucking love to be with? And that's what quality is all about. Why would you not think, following your goal is not cool? If you're going to be here, baby, I mean, I'm trying to get the best out of everything. But what's happening is, too, and that's the power of that's a whole different conversation. I got something else coming up for you guys, too. But just to let you know, too, your mind can't tell what reality is or not. And so is your ego. But I'm saying all of this to say the things that would make sense, we don't even look at them as making sense. Because we're already living a whole different reality. So it's like your bullshit, I mean, it's even harder for you to get out of your bullshit mentality for you to get to know the truth, whereas that's your birthright. But I'm saying this to show you the power of conditioning, the power of us creating other world. That's what the false self is. You create a whole different entity that you're living by. You're feeding your emotion into that person. You're worshiping idols. And then we created a whole society that is based on that. Based on a whole fucking lie. That's what the movie The Matrix was talking about when they said you're living in the Matrix, man. A world that was created, so that they're saying so you don't see the truth, but it's not so that you don't see the truth. It's just ignorance. But I already talked about that. So, let's get back to the subject excuse me, at hand. Oh, jeez. All right, shit. All right, nigga. So changing your perspective about the ego, understanding that the ego is not, this is where I was going to go with that. So when I was talking about your heart is meant to be open, meaning you're here to love. I mean, I get obviously hate too. I mean, it's happening. But is that the best? Like, is that the best you have? Is that even you, though? That's what I'm saying? Because when you talk about you represent love. Do you see what I'm saying? And when I'm talking about love, I'm not talking about romantic love. Romantic love is just an aspect of you expressing love. That's why, well, ladies, slow down. I'm not trying to put y'all down. That's why a bitch shouldn't be your life. And I'm not saying this to denigrate my ladies. I'm not saying none of that. In fact, I appreciate y'all. You feel me? Oh, it's more than appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I'm in love with y'all. I don't think y'all understand. But what I'm saying is, I'm not one-sided. What's happening is you have a whole universe, the whole life, my purpose, the person that I am as a spiritual being and all of that shit. And then a nigga's going to tell me all you're looking for is pussy? You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. Look, listen now, I appreciate everything. You know what I'm saying? Like my man French, yo, that's my song too. That's my nigga. I fuck with this nigga, man. Yo, y'all gotta check out Appreciate Everything. That's my shit. You know what I'm saying? We make the play counts on this side. You feel me? I love that shit. But I'm saying all of that to say, man, where the fuck was I gonna go with this? Yeah, so I'm talking about you acknowledging yourself. Oh, fuck it, I lost it. You're just gonna have to move on. Let's move on, right? So yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick synopsis because that is needed for the next step for me. as far as linking the information, but most importantly for you to understand what I'm saying to you. Now that you start changing your perspective about the ego, and then now you understand that the ego is there to help you to make sure it's there for your survival, your protection, and to make sure that you always thrive. But now here's the thing: your ego can only go as far as you go. That's why the next step, not just embracing the ego, because by you educating the ego, that's you embracing it too, now on a higher level. So the first step was for you to change your perspective. Now you're having a different approach. It allows you to ease up to the ego. So you guys, you know what I'm saying, you're trying to make peace with the nigga. You know what I'm saying? But now the second part is about educating the ego. But how do you educate the ego, though? Because the ego goes as far as you go. Understand this. You cannot separate the ego from you. That's why fighting the ego doesn't make any sense. When you resist it, it will fucking persist. Just like if you don't heal your wounded child, you're going to be acting based on those pain. So by you embracing or healing your wounded child, what you're doing is you are coming into terms with it. But for you to do that, you have to educate it. You have to go back. Knowledge now has to become, the link, or, the tool that you use to heal yourself. That's why your survival kit down here is your fucking knowledge. I don't give a fuck. No matter what you got to know how to do that shit. Again, it's all mental. So how do you dissociate spirituality from your life? Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. But now let's get back to how do you educate the ego. Hold up now. Okay, down here. Hold up. Right? So, how do you educate the ego? But most importantly, to educate the ego is to educate yourself. What I was going to say that I forgot to mention earlier or prior was that you can't get rid of your ego. All spiritual masters, now they will tell you not to let the ego take over you, or whatever the fuck, however the fuck they say it. But again, that's not the ego. They're talking about the false self. And then in that same sentence, they would also say the ego is the false self. No, that's not what the ego is. Obviously, that's what we're talking about here. The false self, not to get too much into it, and you guys should know about that now, is the self that you actually created. You feel life into. You're feeding that person emotion, your attention, everything. You brought that character to life. Yeah, you created him. You fueled him, you gas him up, you know what I'm saying? And now you are representing yourself as that. In the meantime, you are neglecting yourself. Whether you acknowledge it or not, that's what's taking place. And that's what a lot of people are doing. The only difference here is that I'm helping you to acknowledge that. Because the whole game is all about acknowledgement. Once you acknowledge it, listen, you got it. Because now that acknowledgement is going to lead you into understanding it, being aware of it, and being conscious of it. And as you're doing so now, your focus is becoming on that. Now you're doing your shadow work. You're going inside. You're stepping into the dark side. Because I remember for me, like the first time I remember, like when I noticed my shadow, I think I was in the shower, man. Ironically, I was in the shower and I felt like there was somebody around me. Then when I turned around, you know what I'm saying, look, and I could feel my shadow like, whoa, ran away. Oh, now we good now though. We all came together. And that's what I'm trying to get you. That's the alignment. That's how you all come together. That's you embracing the complexity of the person that you are. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's what the work is all about. So now, because I remember that day too, man, when I saw him, and I was like so shocked. I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? It's like, whoa, yeah, I just don't know how to describe it yet. I just felt it. I know what it's like. So that's when I understood, the mystery of us, the shadow self. Because men, we are both visible and invisible at the same time. Now, that invisible side of you, your emotions, your intellect, all of that shit that, you know what I'm saying, but that's not physical. We are dark and night at the same time. I mean, in light, I meant to say. That's why, for me, my interpretation of dark and light, when it comes to that, is always, for me, the light is everything that's visible. And the dark is what's not, it's in what's invisible. Not in terms of good or bad, none of that shit, nah. And that's why, for me, a light worker, you got to walk on both sides. Because you got to get into the darkness for you to bring out the light. Do you see what I'm saying? So understand this. What you're calling spiritually undeveloped, they just stay in the dark. They don't seek for the light. In fact, the darker, the more as they're going in there, the more they see the light, the more they're trying to avoid it. But they got to have the light. That's why you called your energy vampires. Now they sucking on your blood. That's what you're calling a hater. A hater would, do you know how, I don't think you guys understand like the severity of that shit. Or how ironic that shit is too. Depending on how you're looking at it. You know what I'm saying? Like a hater would spend his entire time, man, trying to fuck somebody else up instead of using that same time and apply it to themselves. They don't want this light. They want your light. As if you didn't have to go to the darkness for you to get the light. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all connected. But anyway, so now educate. Now we're talking about education. So now how do we educate ourselves? Our true education comes from the heart. Because here's something you got to understand about the heart. The heart is a little bit more than just there to love. There's experiencing, there's living, there's life in your heart. When you put your heart into a game, you know what I'm saying? Like when Jordan, like these niggas always tell you that shit. I love the game. Kobe Bryant was saying the same shit too. I love the game. So he's alive. So I'm saying this to say your heart is meant to be experienced too. When you're living from the heart, it means you're doing shit that is in alignment with you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So how do you grow spiritually? You grow spiritually by developing your inner vision, which is your understanding. But what does it for you is the heart knowledge. That's why you got to go through the heart. Now, there's a few fucking disclaimers that we got to, you know what I'm saying? The heart, they always tell you, and I'll give you a perfect example. People will tell you not to be emotional, but you want to be radical or you want to be, have a... They're not really saying, well, the key thing should be for you to have you know what I'm saying, a good relationship with it. But what I'm trying to say is this. there's intelligence in your heart, in your emotions. That's what the feminine energy is all about. Emotion doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that, you know what I'm saying, like you're not thinking straight. Your intellect is supposed to work with your heart, not the other way around. In other words, like, and that's everything else. Everything is taking order from your heart. Like when Jordan or Kobe Bryant loved the game, guess what? Then that love for the game develop a sense of fucking discipline. They became their self disciple, the fucking self disciple. Now this nigga's saying when everybody else is partying, I'm doing this for myself. That's what I do too with my fucking, growth with my spirituality. You know what I'm saying? With me feeding myself. When everybody's on that type of time, I found the thing that works for me. You know, that's why I always tell people, everybody's spiritual. Like, it's like, I'm not going to say these niggas are not spiritual because they're not preachers, man. Do you see what I'm saying? We all have a different purpose on earth. You know, like, that's why I listen to everybody. Knowledge is knowledge regardless of where it comes from. Because all is mental. Now, I don't know how they identify themselves or what they identify themselves with, but I could tell you there's a certain humble that comes with it. When you know the gift, you're embracing it. Like, that's why these guys are very wise, man. They're always using, you know what I'm saying, like certain sayings, like, come on, man. You see what I'm saying? Like, what I'm trying to tell you is this, man. Not everybody, like, don't get it fucked up. A lot of people are spiritual, and they know it too. But they're not there to preach. They're not priests. Do you see what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. You know what I'm saying? Like a nigga like me, I'm a healer. Like, I came here to talk this shit to other motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Have I not was a healer, I would be on my path. If my call was not for me to come down and teach, I would be in my path. Still living a great life, still fucking being smart, still in being in divine communion with the Holy Spirit, and then take it from there. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why I don't look at these people like what I'm saying, like they're not on the same level as me. Because a lot of them, that's not their fucking purpose. But I'm saying all of that to say, man, what the fuck? I was talking about the heart, right? But it's just to show you, like, the heart is more than just, there to love. When you're following your purpose, when you're enjoying a good food or you're going somewhere you wanted to go, you're looking at nature, that self-expression is being expressed in different areas in you. Do you see what I'm saying? But ultimately, it's all coming down